Antes de darmos início ao evento, gostaríamos de reforçar o seguinte disclaimer. As manifestações expressas por integrantes dos quadros da Fundação Getúlio Vargas e por convidados que participam dos eventos e transmissões online representam exclusivamente as opiniões dos seus autores e não refletem, necessariamente, a posição institucional da FGV. Após este vídeo de aviso, solicitamos a autorização para o uso da imagem e da voz dos palestrantes mediante manifestações de concordância, tais como um aceno de cabeça ou outro gesto de aprovação. Agradecemos sua participação e desejamos um excelente evento.
Hello, good evening. I'm Ricardo Cardoso. I'm coordinator of the Master and PhD Program in Administration at FGV EBAPE in Rio de Janeiro. It's a great pleasure to present the program to you and know that you are interested in the kind of research that we develop here. For today, in addition to the presentation that I will make about the program, I invited our alumni, Professor Bernardo Andretti. He graduated from our master program in 2019, and then he graduated from our PhD program in administration in 2020. And actually, Bernardo is an assistant professor of marketing at NEOMA Business School. So I don't know if all of you that are following this webinar today understood the disclaimer that was presented in the opening video of today. So just to make it clear, the key message there is that all the information and thoughts that we share in FGV conference and webinars like these are of the responsibility of the presenters themselves, not any responsibility from FGV or any other institution to which we are vinculated. And that we agree with FGV sharing this video and this audio record for later usage in its website. So yes, I do agree, and I'd like to ask Bernardo to present himself, present the research, very interesting research that he is conducting with his colleagues, and I hope that you guys also enjoy Bernardo's research. And Bernardo, if you could also tell us if you agree to share that FGV share your image and this recording for later on. Thank you indeed for everyone that's attending to this talk today, and most importantly, thank you, Bernardo, for your time and coming back to EBAPE, even if it's virtually, to share with us and our audience the very interesting research that you have been conducting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ricardo, for the warm introduction. It's very good to be back home, so to speak. And yes, I do agree to share my image and voice. So it's all good from my side, and the opinions that I'm sharing here are my own. Okay, so I think that the idea for today is to just talk a little bit with whoever is out there, a little bit about my trajectory, right? About how I got where I am now and where I came from in terms of education, and then to discuss a little bit, about the opportunities that, EBAPE gave me and the things that were facilitated from the institution, and then, how I got where I am currently. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're also gonna be in the chat so that if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'd be very happy to answer. So, as Ricardo already introduced, my name is Bernardo, and I'm currently working as an assistant professor of marketing at NEOMA Business School, a university that's in France. So, to speak a little bit of my background, right? So how did I get where I am? I cannot uh, emphasize enough the fact that doing, my university studies, right, back at UFRJ in economics, and also my master's and my PhD in Rio de Janeiro was very significant to shape the way I do research right now. And the main reason is that, Rio is a city that is embedded in a context of chronic inequality, right? And there is like a very huge divide between the haves and the have-nots, and the inequality here in the city is very visible, and it kind of like it serves as a backdrop for all of the research, or most of the research that I did while I was doing my master's and my PhD. So as Ricardo mentioned, I did my master's at FGV. So I started in 2018, finished in 2019, and then I joined the school again in early 2020, the onset of the pandemic, to do my PhD. And both my master's and my PhD was in business administration with a focus on behavioral sciences, right? And throughout my journey at FGV, I had a huge development and a huge contact, sorry, with the Center of Behavior Research, which I'm going to talk to you in detail a bit further. And I was also the coordinator of field data collection in Rio de Janeiro favelas, more specifically in Maré, which is where we currently have a lab that we do conduct research with lower income individuals, and which is a very understudied subpopulation of Brazil and of the world as well. So throughout my academic journey in the PhD, I also got exposed to the international academia, network, and much of that was, of course, facilitated by EBAPE. And so while I was doing my PhD, while I was almost finishing, I went for a period of doctoral stay in Oxford University. And more specifically, I went to the Blavatnik School of Government to work on COVID responses, right? So there was, back in the day, while we still were discussing, and the discussion was very heated on COVID, I worked on this Oxford COVID-19 government response tracker, where we tracked all the policies across all the countries in terms of mask wearing, social distancing, vaccination policies even. And I served there as a research assistant, and currently I am a honorary research associate of the group. And that was a period where, not only did I develop my research skills and broaden my network, but also there was a really formative environment for me to get in touch with, like-minded people that did, research at a very top tier, and with very, strong academic objectives in mind, and that was really important for my current view of the world, so to speak. And then after that, so I moved, of course, to the UK, right, in Oxford. And then right after the I finished at Oxford, I then applied for a position as a postdoctoral scholar. So it was at the time I was finishing my PhD at EBAPE. And then when I was finishing it, I applied for this position to work at Imperial Business School. And there I had a double appointment where I was half allocated to the marketing scholarship. So I conducted a lot of research in marketing and behavioral sciences, but also half of my time I was dedicating myself to the Center for Health Economics and Policy Innovation. So doing health economics and policy work. And that was also a very formative, very interesting moment of my career where I had, again, exposure to a very good business school that allowed me to conduct research. And I think that, just to emphasize, I think that, I've been to these institutions that are, worldwide known. And I think that, I've met a lot of PhD students there, right? And comparing the PhD students and the student body of EBAPE and of those schools, we can see that EBAPE trains us very well. So if there is one thing that I would like you to leave today with this message is that if you decide to take up a PhD at EBAPE, you're definitely going to be, very well trained, and the training is very rigorous. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this later. But so that's a little bit of my trajectory, and that culminated that up to where I am now. So I currently serve as an assistant professor of marketing at NEOMA Business School, which is a business school only at 3 regions in France: Paris, Rouen, Reims. And I currently, work on teaching consumer behavior, how individuals make decisions in their daily lives. And also I do, as I believe, at least very exciting research. So to talk a little bit about my research interests, broadly speaking, is all of the research that I do tries to understand a single fundamental question, which is how do individuals like you, like me, make consumption decisions in areas that we call of social significance, right? And the areas of social significance that I focus more on are inequality, public health, and climate change. So I try to understand, how people would, for instance, make decisions when they are in more versus less unequal settings. I want to understand how people make decisions, for example, about vaccination or about healthy eating, which would be into the public health umbrella, and also how people make decisions in terms of what they decide to buy. Should they decide to buy a more or a less eco-friendly option, right? Which goes into a more of the climate change agenda. And all of my research then is at this intersection of what we call consumer psychology. So how, consumers really think about consumption practices and what are their decision making when they're making consumption decisions at the intersection of public policy, right? So research that ultimately has some policy impact or policy, result. And most of my research also tries to answer to the call for doing societally relevant research. So in my area, which is marketing, right, my primary area, there is quite a lot of calls recently for more research in the top journals such as Journal of Marketing to do more research at that is relevant to policymakers, to the society at large. So there is, for example, the Better Marketing for a Better World. There are some other conferences that tries to talk about how consumers, how us as researchers can facilitate consumers' well-being, and what is the consumer relevance beyond marketing. So there is a deep need there to conduct more societally relevant research. And I think that when I was confronted, right, by this decision of should I do a PhD at FGV, right? Should I pursue that goal? And I think that some key features that were really interesting to me at the time and that I think still hold true are, for one, EBAPE gives a very rigorous training and coursework. So you would leave the school knowing that you're going to be very well trained in methods, in how you approach research and how you conduct studies, in how you think about framing your studies, etc. Also, there is a breadth of a faculty with expertise, experience, and availability. So I find that faculty at EBAPE are usually very available, accessible to discuss ideas, to come up with new research projects, and just to guide each student into their best outcomes. And also you would have, like I'm pretty sure Ricardo is going to mention, but you have like opportunities to teach, to go on the doctoral stage, to engage in personal development activities, and so on and so forth. So that was, for me, when I was confronted with this opportunity of doing a PhD, that made me really happy, and I felt that that was a good uh, building block to start with. But also I had more specific, so to speak, objectives, and I think that EBAPE gave me more specific advantages in terms of what it could offer when I was looking at it. So the other key thing that EBAPE offered me was access to the Center of Behavior Research. And this center is, of course, part of the studies that we do on behavioral sciences. It's more on the behavioral track, but also has connections with more public policy work, or even work on policy, etc. So within the Center for Behavioral Research, we have four streams, right? We have the poverty and inequality stream, which is more of my very core field of research that tries to investigate the psychological differences between the haves and the have-nots. There is the sustainability umbrella, there is the public health umbrella, and there is also the research on political polarization, which is growing more and more in countries such as the US and also in Brazil. So the makeup of this center really gave me a lot of will in terms of conducting research, and here I developed a network that stays to these days, right? So currently I think that this is one of the core strengths that I would say, because at CBR you have like an active research network of like-minded people. You can set up multiple collaborations, and these collaborations also lead to research output in top marketing and behavioral sciences journals. So we have a lot of these synergies, and I'm still to these days affiliated to the center as a member, and I'm really proud to be so. So that's one of the core I think pluses of EBAPE. So I think that taking together all of this that I've spoken so far, I think that in a nutshell, I would say that what EBAPE gave me was the toolkit, right? So the training to be a good researcher and to be like better as a researcher, really, and also gave me the network and the people and the access to things that made me get to where I am now. And as a final part of this talk, I'm just going to talk a little bit about a branch of my research that tries to study social class in consumer behavior, right? So we're trying to understand what is the relationship between the social class that you were born into or that you grew into in terms of consumption, decision making. So within this research stream, I tried to understand, how social hierarchies and income inequality systematically shape consumer judgment and ultimately decision making. And here I selected first, like the way we approach this issue, right? So we go into our research is what we call lab in the field, right? So we have like a lab, almost like an experiment type of research, but that we actually sample or we pull participants from real life, right? So we go into the streets, we approach, passersby on these neighborhoods, and we infer, their social class from where they're currently living and from where they are. And in this context, right, of when you're trying to really understand a very wide disparity in terms of income, this is a very good setting, because although these people live just more or less 40 minutes away from each other, they are very different in many things, right? So for instance, you can think about income, right? And from the people that we sample, more or less, we can see that per capita income is almost 20 times higher in the South Zone as it is in the Maré region. Also, education is almost doubled. And for example, the food insecurity index from 1 to 4, while it's nearly absent from the wealthier areas, is widespread in the poor regions of Rio. So that's, our context, right? We sample participants from these regions, and we try to understand really what's going on, what could explain, consumer decisions, consumer outcomes, and also non-consumer outcomes. So to wrap up, I'm going to talk about two pieces of research that were relatively recently published. This is just hot off the press this year. And in this one, we try to understand how low socioeconomic status prevents political engagement, right? And then we run a couple of studies, some of them using this sampling that I was just talking to you about from Rio de Janeiro residents. And we find that there are psychological barriers, right? And we name one specific mechanism or explanation, which is the lower self-efficacy, right? So not believing that you're actually able to be efficacious, that your vote matters. And as this belief explaining the gap between the poor and the rich in terms of political engagement. So research shows that lower socioeconomic status individuals tend to engage less in politics, and this is usually about the explanations are about the time, the availability, or even like more supply side constraints. And we show here a psychological barrier as well, which is political efficacy. And another very interesting thing about this research is that it's very recent, it was just recently published, but it had already wide coverage in the media. And this is also something that FGV can help you. It's like to be able to extrapolate your research findings to a wider audience and to go into the media and to talk about the research that you're doing. So in this case, it came out in Diário do Pernambuco and also at O Globo in Lauro Jardim. And finally, my PhD paper. So my PhD thesis ended up being published in the Journal of Marketing. And here we try to understand how socioeconomic status shapes food preferences and perceptions. And again, using a similar sample, we identify that one key explanation for why lower socioeconomic status individuals eat unhealthier is the fact that they rely more on the fillingness aspects of foods relative to health. So there is attribute preferences and perceptions that are in the background of their choices that hinder healthier eating, amongst this group relative to high SS individuals, and that's a key barrier for healthier eating among this group. So within this study, we also come up with several different explanations and mechanisms, and also interventions to overcome this problem. And all of this was done again using the context of FGV, using the lab, using real participants, so doing a very what we call ecologically valid research, and that ended up being published in a very nice journal, and also had wide coverage in the media, in the UK, in some outlets, and also in Brazil. So I think that this wraps up more or less what I had to say in terms of the background and how did I get here, how EBAPE helped me get here, and to talk a little bit very briefly about my research agenda. But I hope that was enough to at least get your interest in the program, and hopefully you'll be very keen to join us soon. So yeah, back to you, Ricardo. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bernardo. Thank you very much for such an interesting presentation. If you have questions for Bernardo, I will be very glad to read them here so Bernardo can answer. If you are keen to be identified as the one asking questions, please just write your name. If you prefer not to be identified, please do not write your name so I will not read it in a loud voice because you are sharing your personal information once you write down your name here. So I just saw one question here. So please, if you are keen to be identified, say yes. Otherwise, I will not read your name, okay? So while we wait for this colleague to tell me if I can identify him or not, Bernardo, I will ask you one question. You are developing yourself as a very prominent behavioral researcher. And you are very well succeeded in positioning yourself in the academic career in this path. Now, I ask you, since you graduated from our PhD program like kinda 3 years ago, in addition to experimental research that you have been developing since your master with us, what can you say about the methodological courses that we offer for those that are more interested, let's say, in other research approach, like in-depth interviews or archival data analysis. In addition to the experimental, that's evident that we are providing a very good training since you have succeeded so well in publishing papers in very top level journal. Please.
No, thanks, Ricardo. That's a very good question. And in fact, I think that this is, I would say, this is one core strength, right, of the program, which is the methodological training. And I would not say for sure that this is only true for the experimental side. It's like, I think it's like quite broad. And for example, some of the research that I do is still in the behavioral arena, but it relies a lot on secondary data sources and different types, of like bigger data sets. And from that perspective, we have professors at EBAPE who are very knowledgeable about, for example, panel data sets and, machine learning algorithms and other types of, ways to dealing with the data, let alone doing the sort of more also qualitative research analysis, which also have, some methodological strengths at EBAPE. So I think, really it's a wide mix of skills. And what I can say is that whenever I had to use secondary data sets as well in my research, I have always been able to do so because I was well trained. So I think, the training is not only focused on one thing, but it's broad and it's methodological rigorous.
Thank you, Bernardo. So now I will read Davis' question. Actually, Davis' question is more related to the application process and the characteristics of the candidates that we accept more than related to your career and how you see the program. But you can help me answering this question, Bernardo, since you have your views as a student that based on your classmates here. So David asked, dear Professor Ricardo and Bernardo, looking at recent cohorts, what characteristics tend to distinguish applicants who are admitted and thrive in the program? Do you want me to start answering, then you complement or
Uh,
disagree?
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, David. We are searching for students who are really keen to study, to dedicate themselves to learn. This program is, I might say, very time demanding. I can explain later on what I mean by time demanding, but if each course of ours is a 30 hours course, 2 credit. On average, students need to dedicate themselves 45 hours or 30 hours outside the classroom in order to be able to perform as we intend them to perform during these 30 hours in classroom. So every course that we say 30 hours in classroom might take you in total something like 50 to 60 hours in total, 20 or 30 outside the classroom plus 30 in classroom. So I mean that this is the kind of student that we are searching for, intelligent, smart students that are really keen to dedicate themselves to study and to learn with a very positive view of researching. I mean, good listener, respectful regarding to the point of views of their colleagues and other classmates in order to co-create the knowledge together with classmates and with professors. Bernardo, please help me here.
I think, from the other side of the seat, right? What I think it's a professors are searching for is people who are able, PhD students who have, enthusiasm and grit. So I think it's the combination of the two, right? So you have to be up for, learning, of getting out of your comfort zone, of really like, going deep into a literature, into a methodology, and, taking time to develop yourself. And that takes, grit. It takes like really you waking up and doing it. And also, enthusiasm. So being really curious about, a certain research question or a certain quest for something. I think like if you can show the panel that you have the two, then it's very likely that you can be successful. So that's my 2 cents about this.
Thank you. I do agree with you, Bernardo. I saw the questions here, but they're more related to the selection process and other issues that I will present just in a few minutes. So I think that if you don't have questions to Bernardo anymore, I would like ask Bernardo if you would like to say something else, because now I will talk about the program, and I know that they're in Paris, in France, so quite so late by now. So please feel free to keep with us or to hang out, and then I will keep presenting the program with for the audience. So Bernardo. Oh, there is a question here, probably for Bernardo. What does an average day a student look like after FGV, Bernardo? So yes, there's a question for you, please.
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's a good for I think a wrap up. So I think that there is so as a student, right, as a PhD student, when you start the program, you're gonna have courses, right? You're gonna have classes to attend to, and I'm pretty sure Ricardo is gonna tell about this, but this is like this is done in quarters, right? At FGV, so you have 4 quarters in a year. So you have periods that are very intensive in terms of the training that you have, so both methods and other courses, and so you're going to be busy for the first 2 years in terms of the training that you have to keep up with in terms of the teaching and the extra hours that Ricardo was talking. So an average day at the beginning would be to read, prepare for the classes, attend the classes, and also get started with your thesis proposal, your thesis ideas, kicking off your ideas. And then after the end, right, probably of the second year, then you're going to become more and more an independent researcher, right? And that's where your thesis is going to take most of your time, and then you have a chance to do a doctoral stay. So you really, over the 4 years, it depends, right? It keeps changing, but at the beginning is coursework and really working on starting your PhD thesis ideas and papers.
I also think that's interesting to say, Bernard, that let's say our students used to take 3 courses per quarter. So they would not need to come to a BAP building more than 3 days a week. But most of the students come to a BAP like 4, 5, or even 6 days a week to study with their classmates and use the students' classrooms that we have here. So they share knowledge, they learn together, they help each other. So the way I perceive the behavior of our students here in their average day student life, as Davi asked, is a very cooperative environment where you share a lot of knowledge with each other there. Can you tell a
I
little
would
bit
definitely
about
agree.
how you live, how you spend your time in those students' rooms that we have here, and what you do there?
Yeah, so I think especially this is especially true in the more methodological focused courses, because really there is a lot of group work and there's a lot of, activities that you have to go through. There's lab sessions that you go in the afternoon. So there's a lot of this, bonding that gets, the people together to work with some specific issues or cases, and also the classes, right? There's a lot of topics that require group work and group discussion. So it's very common that you see, students hanging out after classes, discussing papers or methods or so on and so forth. And it also creates, a good social environment, good bonding. So it's not only studying, though it's most of the time. Yeah.
Thank you, Bernardo, and thank you, Davi, for your question. So, Bernardo, feel free to continue with us. You are very welcome. But if you need to leave due to the time zone that you are there, I do understand. And thank you again for your time and your generosity sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ricardo, and best of luck to all of the people here.
Bye. Okay, guys, now I will talk about the program. So I will share my screen and I have a very brief presentation. So I will not take that long and we can all understand, follow better what I'm talking about here. So again, I'm Ricardo, the coordinator of the MSc PhD program, the master and doctoral program in administration at FGV EBAPE, just to make sure we are based in Rio de Janeiro. Um, in the coordination, I have the pleasure to work together with Daniele, the program manager, and Patricia, the program assistant. Most probably, when you send an email to the coordination to the msc.phd, it will be either Daniele or Patricia who will answer your email. So it's good to have the face that sign the emails that answer your questions. Okay. So talk about the program. The academic graduate studies in administration at FGV is composed of the master and the PhD. The courses are interconnected and share the same values and principles. And the school is accredited by Equis, AACSP, and AMBA, what we used to call the Triple Crown, on the top of the Business Graduates Association, the NASPA, and the ICAPA. So we are very proud of all these international organizations that accredit our school and, of course, our MSc and PhD program. In addition to that, the Brazilian Ministry of Education, through its branch called CAPES, assesses the quality of the training that the master and PhD programs offer in Brazil. And they do this assessment every 4 years. And for the third time in a row, for 12 years so far, we have been assessed with the highest possible grade. That's number 7. So that scale goes basically from 3 to 7. 7 is the highest, and we are very proud to be a CAP 7 MSc PhD program in administration. Said that, let's talk about the program. So although, as I said, our master and the PhD are interconnected and share the same principles, the master and PhD have different purposes. The purpose of the master is to prepare students to become a PhD candidate, either here in Brazil at FGV or in another institution, either in Brazil or anywhere else in the world, or to join the job market. As Bernardo helped me present in the program, made pretty clear that the most relevant emphasis that our program has is on research methodology. And you can apply such research methodology skills in the job market, not only in the academia. But that's the idea that our master, we perceive our master as a pre-PhD program. So that's why we say that our main focus is to prepare the graduates from the master to become a PhD candidate later on. And the purpose of the PhD is to prepare students for the academic career as research professors. For example, as Bernardo that you just saw his portfolio of research. Can be at any university in Brazil or abroad, or in other academic or think tank institutions. Now, talk about the program, and again, I need to refer to Bernardo's speech, because what he said there is somehow connected to what I'm presenting here. What we call the program highlights in this slide is the way I organize most of the responses I collect from alumni like Bernardo about what do they perceive as the most valuable aspects of our MSc and PhD program. And they used to give answers that are related to each of these boxes that I organized in these 4 pillars. So some of them used to say that they are very satisfied with the road knowledge faculty. So they talk about the quality of our program based on the quality of the faculty members. And I might say, yes, that's true. I'm very proud to participate in a group of researchers with such a relevant international experience. Some of our colleagues here are not Brazilian, but we have professors from different countries in the world that went since their kindergarten until their PhD outside Brazil, and then moved to Brazil to teach at EBAPE. Others are Brazilians like myself, but have a very relevant experience abroad, even for a master or PhD, visiting professor position, or working in other organizations outside the academia. On the top of that, we develop very relevant research, perceived as relevant in the international arena. And here I might give you some information from the last period when CAPES assessed the quality of this program from 21 to 24. The faculty members of this program, we published 248 papers in academic journals. 194 of those 248 papers were published in what CAPES considers as the most relevant academic journals. That was called back then at the time as A1 journals, and 26 on other very, very good journals, A2 journals. So it's not only a matter of quantity, but about quality. let's say more than 80% of our publications are in top ranking journals. And this is just a small list of a sample of the such very, very difficult academic journals to publish a paper, and we manage it to publish papers there. Most of these papers were in partnership with our students indeed. And also talk about the productivity of the faculty as that slide shows, not only the quantity, but the quality. Another reason or feature of this program that students use to highlight when they answer why did you choose EBAPE or why would you recommend EBAPE to a colleague of yours is the quality and rigorous training that we offer. First of all, I might say that the program is fully taught in English. Definitely, it's not a characteristic of the quality, it's just the language. But just to make clear, why do we teach the courses in administration in English and not in Portuguese, since we are based in Brazil? Basically because the goal is to influence society with our research. Not only the society of Rio de Janeiro, not only the society of Brazil, but I'm talking about the worldwide audience. So that's why we discuss research, we teach in English, so we can discuss research in English, we can develop our research in English. And then it's much easier for us to publish our papers in academic journals, which official language is the English. So we can influence the international audience, not only the Brazilian audience. And that's sad because the English language is the language of science. There is no doubt about that. And then it's much more time efficient to read papers published either in Portuguese or in English, but discuss them straight away in English to build our thoughts about the research problem, and then go further, discussing the paper in English, then doing everything in Portuguese, and then translating it to English to try to publish internationally is much less efficient. That's why the program is all taught in English. It means that students ask questions in English, students answer their essays, and the final exams are in English, and you defend your thesis in English as well. As I said, the program is very time demanding, and it's a full-time program. The master here at EBAPE, we expect that you will defend your thesis, master thesis, 21 months after joining the program. So if you join the program in February 27, we expect you to graduate by September 28. While the PhD is a little bit longer. It is a 4-year program, 48 months. So if you join the program in January 27, you shall graduate in December 27, 8, 9, 10, 30. So in 2030, December 2030, you might graduate from our PhD program. And this is how the programs are structured. First, I present how the MSc, the master, is structured, and then about the PhD. The structures are pretty much similar, so I will go in detail about the master program structure, and then I will just compare with the PhD, okay? So, master students, as I said, have 21 months to graduate. Since the beginning, during the first 1 year, master students take courses. You need to take 12 courses in our master program. So you will take at least 3 method courses, Statistics 1A, Statistics 1B, and one more among qualitative data collection analysis, comparative historical methods, advanced survey methods, or experimental design and analysis, plus 3 courses related to the research track that you choose. We have 4 research tracks here. You need to choose one of them as your track, and then you need to take 3 courses specifically from that research track. So 6 courses so far, plus 5 other courses that we call here elective courses. What is an elective course? Might be more method courses, more courses from your research track, or courses from other research tracks, from the other 3 research tracks. Or you can take courses from other programs outside EBAPE, and that's it. So you have plenty of opportunities to fulfill this requirement to take 5 elective courses. And you also have to take the course that we call Research Topic in Administration. I have another slide about it. And in addition, you need to work together with your supervisor in your thesis. And then we have some hours allocated to the supervised research seminars. So in total, you take 12 courses, that means 24 credits, plus other activities like the supervised research seminars and qualifying and defense. It's a total of 34 credits. That's equivalent to 510 hours in classroom, let's say like this, because as I said, each one of these courses is a 30-hour program course. So if you spend 30 hours in classroom and you spend kind of 20 hours to 30 hours outside classroom to learn and to prepare yourself to come to classroom and to have debate with your colleagues and the professors, in total, each one of these courses will take you 60 hours on average, times 11 courses plus the research topics. It's really time consuming. And you need to take all these courses during the first 1 year. Then you have 9 more months until the month 21, September 28, to work on your research with your supervisor to qualify and defend it. The PhD program, the structure is pretty much similar, as I just said. The difference is the amount of courses that you need to take and the time length that it takes. PhD students shall take courses during the first 2 years in the program. So during the first 2 years, you take method courses, plus research track courses, plus elective courses, plus the research topics and administration. So it will consume your first 2 years in the program. And then you have 2 more years to work on your thesis with your supervisor. In total, you take 19 courses, equivalent to 38 credits, plus the 3 qualifying, I mean, the first qualifying, the first research paper, then the qualifying of the project, and finally, the defense of your PhD dissertation. It will give you in total 54 credits, equivalent to 810 hours in classroom, as I just said. So it's really time consuming. That's why I said that it's a program for students that are committed for full-time dedication to the program. And these are the research tracks that we have in the program. We have 4 research tracks. So actually, they are institutions, policy, and government, coordinated by Professor Carlos Pereira. Behavioral decision science, coordinated by Professor Ishania Graval. Strategy management and organizations, coordinated by Professor Olivier Bertrand. And finance, coordinated by Professor Lars Norden. Based on the names, you can see that we have a very diversified group of professors regarding their place of born. Carlos is Brazilian, Lars is from Germany, Olivier is from France, Ishani is from India, and we have other professors from other countries, as I can tell later on. If you have curiosity about the research tracks, the meaning, the kind of research that we develop within each of these research tracks, I invite you to go through our website, and there we explain a little bit more about the meaning, the goal, the purpose of each of the research tracks. And you also have information about which professors are more connected to each of these 4 research tracks. And another reason that's connected to the quality and rigors of our training, as Bernardo anticipated, is the role played by the research centers at EBAPE. Bernardo talked about the Center for Behavioral Research in Rio, where he developed most of his research so far. In addition to that, we have the Center for Banking and Finance Research in Rio, that by the name suggests, the main focus there is research on banking and finance coordinated by Professor Lars. I didn't say, but the CBR is coordinated by Professor Ian. And we also have the Applied Research Center in Accounting and Analytics that I have the pleasure to coordinate. That by the name, the main focus there is accounting and auditing. Again, please visit our website. We have detailed information about the research centers over there. And what's the main point of presenting the research centers for you here? It's because usually students, specifically master students, they don't have a clear idea of what kind of research they will develop. They have a research interest, but not so clear specifically which research question they will answer. But there, in the research centers, we used to have multiple research projects going on the same time. And then usually we have the opportunity to engage other students in the projects that we are developing in the research centers. In some cases, the research centers have budget to pay an additional scholarship for students that participate in the research team. So I invite all of you to keep in touch with the professors that coordinate the research centers and go through the website where we have detailed information so you can join some of those research projects. Depending on the situation, you can receive an additional scholarship, you can use that piece of research as part of your thesis, and then you can graduate, as Bernardo did, defending research that was elaborated within the research center. Another reason that students used to answer about why choosing our MSc and PhD program is about the inspiring academic experience that we offer. And there are many ways that we can offer these. I just highlight 2 here. The Research Topics in Administration course is a course that you need to take. It's a mandatory course, but it's taught by visiting professors invited to present a research project that is still underway. So you receive the draft, the working paper from the presenter. You read this paper that we call a working paper, since it was not published yet. Then the visiting professor comes, talks about the research, but goes in very specific details about the research, including sharing some, let's say, insider information from the backstage of that research. So you, as a future researcher, can learn from the experience from other researchers, experienced researchers. what they did that was that what they would do differently if they were going to organize the research project and collect data right now. And then the faculty members from EBAPE leave the room, and there stays only you, the students, with the visiting professors, and you can ask whatever questions you have, any curiosity you have. Usually, when we receive visiting professors from other countries, our students used to ask them about how is it to pursue a career, academic career in that specific country, or how could I apply for a job market there, or how should I apply for a position as a postdoc or a doctoral stay in your university. So it's very common, and and very helpful in order to help you building a network within this academia environment. And we we invite professors from different fields in administration that connect to each of the 4 research tracks that we offer here. Another issue that Bernardo also brought very clear is about the opportunities that he had to go abroad to pursue a doctoral stay and go further in his PhD research while studying in other countries, in other universities. So yes, we encourage our students to take a doctoral stay. In Portuguese, we used to say doutorado sanduíche abroad, as long as they complete all course credits and receive the approval from the evaluators of the first research paper. Usually, the doctoral stay is no longer than 12 months. So you spend, let's say, 3 years with us, 1 year abroad, not necessarily in this order. Usually, the students spend 2.5 years here, go abroad for 1 year, and then they return and spend 6 more months until the graduation. And all students to which I had the opportunity to talk when they returned from such a doctoral stay, they would say, I would do it again for sure. And they do recommend their colleagues to also go and have such an international living experience like this. Of course, this applies pretty much well for PhD students because PhD students have 4 years in the program, while the master program is much shorter, only 21 months. So very few master students manage to conclude all the credits in the first year, then work with their supervisors to structure their research project, go abroad for, let's say, a master stay, mestrado sanduíche, and then they come back to defend their master dissertation. It happens, but it is less common. It's much more common for the PhD students to go for a doctoral stay than for master students to go abroad. But it's possible, and we also encourage you all to go. And finally, another reason that I perceive that is very, very characteristic, a very good characteristic of our program, is the high quality of our students. David asked about the characteristics of our students, and I'm very happy and very proud of the quality of the students that we have here, the really top-notch students. And such a group of students is quite diverse. And I know that diversity is a commonplace word nowadays, but I might say that although we are based in Rio de Janeiro, we have many students that are not from Rio de Janeiro. We have many students that are from other states in Brazil, and we also have students that are not Brazilian, students that just move to Brazil to study with us during the master or the PhD. Right now, we have a student from China, a student from Peru, a student from Nigeria that just moved to Rio de Janeiro to study with us. Such a geographical diversity, I think that it's amazing because it brings a cultural diversity in the classroom. So the same issue, the same research problem, we can analyze through different lens depending on the cultural background that we have. And sharing this information, having the opportunity to share these different points of view with your classmates, it's amazing. I always learn with them for sure. And also, academic diversity. What I mean by this is that although it's a master and a PhD in administration, we have many students that are from other backgrounds than administration. We have students that graduated from the undergrad in accounting, in medicine, in physics, in philosophy, in law, in economics, in engineering, and well, so many different areas than administration. Again, these different perspectives, these different backgrounds students have also help us to learn a lot and co-create knowledge together. That's amazing. And another reason, I think that the most important one that is related to all these four pillars is where are our graduates nowadays? Those that graduated from the master program or from the PhD, what are they doing now? You saw an example with Bernardo right now, that's there as an assistant professor in marketing in France. But I have here statistics, not updated, but okay, still valid. From 2010 to 2023, there graduated 149 PhD candidates and 133 master candidates. And where are they nowadays? 72% of those that graduated from a PhD are working in the academia, 13 at EBAPE, 88 in Brazil outside EBAPE, and 7 were teaching abroad. These numbers nowadays is much bigger because, for example, Bernardo is not in this list, just to give you an example, since he graduated in 23. And from those that graduated from a master, 42% of them pursued a PhD, and those that 56 that pursued a PhD, 32 of them stayed with us. So they graduated from a master and then they enrolled in the PhD program at EBAPE. We are very proud of them. Since I said that they are top-notch students, we were very keen to keep and retain them to continue studying with us and graduate from our PhD. But we are also very proud when our students are accepted in other PhD programs in the best universities in Brazil or abroad. And just to give you an example, we had graduated, those that graduated from our master went for PhD in Denmark, France, Spain, Germany, UK, and the US. And talk about salary and the job market. Where are they working? Most of our students are in the education sector, universities. The second place that hire our alumni is the public administration and government. Maybe it's a characteristic of the Brazilian economy. And in third place, they work as a consultants, advisors. And on average, 40% of our students make up to 30 minimum wage in Brazil, what is reasonable and very considerable amount of money. And 23% of them make up to 15 minimum wage. So I can tell that more than 60% of our alumni make more than 10 minimum wage per month. What is an amazing income considering the Brazilian society and the reality that we have here. And how about the publications of our students? In the beginning, I presented the publication from the faculty members. Now talk about the students. In the same period of time, from 21 to 24, our students published 203 papers in academic journals. 42% of those papers were published in top-notch journals, 18% in the second tier of the best academic journals that we have here. For CAPS, they perceive these A1 and A2 as the best academic journals internationally. And 60% of the journal papers published by our students from those 203 papers, 60% were published in very, very good journals. And it was not concentrated in one student that's an outlier, definitely not. It's spread. 71% of our students published at least one paper in a very good journal, in a good journal, from A1 to A4. So it's an amazing performance from our students, and I'm very, very proud of them. Well, said that, we can say that EBAPE is a Brazilian international school. So if you are keen to study, dedicate yourself very hard and dedicate yourself full-time to this master program or this PhD program, if you are curious, if you are keen to learn and develop yourself, and if you are also keen to share with your colleagues and learn from them, this is the place for you. Now, I already said, let me skip all of these and go straight there. Okay, now let's talk about the tuition fee and scholarship. There is a wide availability of scholarships for those approved in our admission process in the MSc and PhD. The scholarships are provided by CAPES and PQ or FGV budget, subject to exclusive dedication and academic performance. So if you dedicate yourself entirely to the program, and if you succeed, we will assure you a scholarship. And on the top of that, you can receive additional scholarships if you work as a teaching assistant, a research assistant. So if you get involved in the academic life of EBAPE, even serving as a teaching assistant or research assistant, you can receive additional scholarships on the top of that offered by CAPES and CNPq. Now, the selection process. The selection process we are talking about here, sorry. Let me just make one amendment. Yes, it's more beautiful now and share with you right now. Okay. So there you go. For the 2027 intake, what do we have? We organize the selection process in 2 rounds. Each round is completely independent from the other. So if you apply for the first round and you are selected, you can join the program. You please do not go through the second round. You are already selected. But if you miss the application for the first round, no problem. You are welcome to try and apply for the second round. Why do you organize the selection process in 2 rounds if we are talking about the intake for 27, which classes will start only in February 27? simply because, as I said, EBAPE is an international school in Brazil. So we are trying and we are doing the best we can to attract students, not only from Rio de Janeiro, but students from other areas of Brazil and students from other countries, in order to allow those students to receive a student visa to move to Brazil, or even if they are Brazilians, but they need to arrange an apartment in Rio de Janeiro, close to FGV, preferably, and arrange all the rental and move and do all the bureaucracy that's necessary. That's why we we kind of anticipate the selection process to August. And then we will provide the final results in, let's say, 19 August. So you have kind of plenty of time to manage moving to Rio de Janeiro if you are not from Rio, or even applying and receiving the visa to move to Rio de Janeiro before classes starts in February. But if it's not your case, if you are a carioca, if you live nearby, you don't need to go all through those process. So you can apply later on the second round, that we will interview you in the beginning of December, and the results will be published by mid-December, so you can start in classrooms in February 27. That's why we arrange the selection process in these two rounds, okay? So just to make clear, now I will talk only about the first round. That's the one that is just knocking the door. So the application period goes until July 17. We will interview candidates in some point between the 3rd of August and 14th of August. We will publish the results by 19th of August, and you will be able to enroll in the program in August, by the end of August. But classes will start only in February. Now, pay attention that one of the documents that you need to submit in the application process is the result of an aptitude test. One of the aptitude tests that we accept is Teste AMPAD, as we call here in Brazil in Portuguese. And there are 3 editions this year still. The exam will be applied in 28 June, 13 September, and 8 November. So if you are intending to apply for the first round, be aware that you need to take the June 28 AMPAD exam in order to receive AMPAD results in time for the interview. Or, of course, if you have already taken the AMPAD exam, and if you have a very nice and very high grades over there, no need to take it again. If it is still in the valid period of time of the AMPAD test, that's fine. But if it's not the case, please be aware that you need to take AMPAD exam. The exam that's closest to the application period is the one from June, and you need to register with the AMPAD to take the AMPAD test over there, let's say usually 1 month in advance. So by the end of May or the beginning of June is the deadline for registration for taking the June AMPAD test. So manage your calendar there, please. Okay? I will not talk much about the second round now, just to make clear that you either apply to the first or to the second round. And we designed the first round most for students that don't live in Rio, don't live in Brazil, or students that work and they need to receive an acceptance letter from the program in order to conclude the request for a sabbatical leave from the employer. So if it's your case, you shall take the first round. So you can manage with your employer from September until February to receive the sabbatical leave there so you can dedicate yourself full time to the program. And about the selection process, as I said, you need to upload many documents, including the standard aptitude test that I highlighted about AMPAD, but we accept GMAT, GRE, or UNPAC instead of AMPAD. On the top of that, you need to upload your undergrad diploma, English proficiency tests like Duolingo, IELTS, TOEFL, Cambridge, APTIS, updated curriculum on this CNPq Lattes base, a letter of intentions, in other words, a motivation letter. Why do you want to study with us? 2 recommendation letters, usually from your professors in the undergrad or in the master if you're applying to the PhD. As I said, we have here in the program 4 research tracks. You need to select 2 and present the order of preference. So the first best option and your second best option. And it's very important because this is the first phase. In the second phase of the selection process, we will be interviewed by the faculty members that dedicate themselves to those 2 research tracks that you choose. So the interview is most related to your research interest. That's why it's very important that you know which are the kind of research that we develop in those research tracks, and you properly select it there. And then if you are applying for the PhD, on the top of all these documents, you also need to upload a pre-project of your dissertation. Please go through our website. There we have the public notes about the selection process, where we have detailed information about all these documents, okay? And then, depending on the results from your exams, and if you have uploaded all the documents that we require, you might be selected for the second phase in the selection process. That's the interview. As I said, you'll be interviewed by the professors that work and research on those 2 research tracks that you prefer to also pursue your master or PhD. And consider that the program is in English, and most professors are not Brazilian and don't speak English, so the interview is conducted in English. In order to make it fair for students that are from outside Rio de Janeiro, the interviews will be through Zoom, so you can participate even though you are not in Rio. And that's all that I have to share with you today about the program. Please take note of our contact information. And as I said in the beginning, when you send an email to the msc.phd@fgv.pr, most probably will be Dani or Patricia that will answer your email. That's why I just brought their photos so you can know who are the face behind the signature of your email. But in our website, you have many, many more information about the program. Okay, that's all I have to present now. Now let's go to the Q&A session. So please, I'm completely available to answer questions. Let me see one question here. Oh, we have plenty. What does the program expect from a research proposal at the application stage in terms of depth and specificity? Well, this is an anonymous question, so what I can tell you, if you're applying for the PhD, you shall upload a research project, a pre-project, okay? And then you ask, what do we expect from you there? I might tell you what I do not expect. I do not expect that 4 years after enrolling in the program, after getting approved in the selection process, I do not expect that you defend a thesis that is exactly that research project. Why? Because it will be an evidence that this program didn't add anything to you. If you defend a thesis that is exactly that research project that you submit in the selection process, it's because we didn't do our job properly. So, said that, what I expect from you when we read your research proposal, I want to know about your ability to put together research ideas and about your curiosity. How can you articulate your curiosity in structuring a research question, and how do you perceive that you can answer that research question? Which ways, which pathways do you intend to walk through in order to be able to answer that research question? Again, I do not expect that you actually will answer that question 4 years after the selection process, just to know about your abilities to organize your ideas, okay? The second question, how does the committee evaluate candidates from non-quantitative academic backgrounds applying to the IPG track? Well, not necessarily to the IPG track. It applies to all the 4 tracks. So I will read your question again and reformulate it. How does the committee evaluate candidates from non-quantitative academic backgrounds applying to the program, despite the research track? We evaluate the same way we evaluate other candidates. As I said, we have candidates from the many different fields, not only from administration. And as Bernardo suggested, when I asked him about other research approach beyond experimental research, yes, we provide training on quantitative methodology research, as well as we provide very good and deep training on qualitative research approach. So if you're not a quantitative guy, no problem. You can come and develop, since it's an interesting research question, if you have a sound theoretical basis for your research, yes, please feel free to come and develop a very good and relevant qualitative research. And we have many courses in the program discussing and help you to develop qualitative research as well. And it applies for all tracks. And I might say that experimental research, like Bernardo developed, yes, there is a hypothesis testing over there, but it's quite simple ANOVA or t-test, not anything that sophisticated that you need for a research using experimental methodological research. So it applies not only to the IPG, but to the behavioral, to the finance, and to the strategy and management organization tracks. All of them, okay? That's why I'm answering in a broader sense. What the third question, what's your cut grade for UNPAD exam? Is more than 300 final grade enough to apply? Is it competitive? That's a good question. Every year I receive this question, and I'm sorry to say that I will not answer this question because we don't announce what is the cutoff grade that we use. So I suggest you to take the UNPAD exam, perform there as best as you can, and present us your highest grade there. And then we will compare your grade to the grades of the other candidates that are applying. And we also have our cutoff, but we don't share that information. Sorry. Is it possible as an international prospect applicant to register at doctoral level without providing any of these documents, AMPAD, GRE, GMAT, IELTS, TOEFL, etc.? No, sorry. We require these tests from all our candidates, Brazilians or non-Brazilians candidates. In Brazil, you can take AMPAD or AMPEC. Outside Brazil, of course, in Brazil too, but outside Brazil, you can take GRE or GMAT. What we can accept instead of GRE or GMAT are tests equivalent to GRE and GMAT, equivalent to AMPAD, that are applied by an academic organization from other countries. So just to give you an example, in Pakistan, there is a specific organization that applies an aptitude exam similar to the Brazilian AMPAD. So yes, if you find in your country or in a neighbor country where you live a similar organization to GMAT, GRE, AMPAD exam, you can send us an email with the link to the website of that organization where they describe the exam they apply, and ask us, before paying the registration fee there, if you would accept the results from that organization. And I will evaluate with the committee here, and if we say yes, yes, good luck. You can take that exam and send us your results from there, and we will consider equivalent to a GMAT, GRE, or AMPAD. But we do need to receive your documents, your performance there, okay? Regarding the English proficiency, IELTS, TOEFL, APITS, whatever, Cambridge, all of those. Yes, we do require that you prove us that you are proficient in English, because the course is taught in English and you write your thesis in English. We can make an exception in very specific circumstances. For example, when you are an English native speaker. Let's say that you got born in the UK, all your formal education was there in the UK, of course, in an English-speaking school since kindergarten until you graduated from the university. So you can explain that to us, send all the documents that prove that your formal education there was in English. So yes, we can exempt you from the English proficiency exam, because it would be no sense to ask you to sit for the IELTS or TOEFL. But if you are not English native speaker, and if you did not take a formal education in that English-speaking university, I'm sorry, you need to present your English proficiency test. And then Bruno asked, is there a pre-project template that we need to follow? No, Bruno, there is no template for you to follow necessarily, but you need to be very objective and write it pretty clear, and no need to present any lengthy research project. If you can write your research ideas in 3-page, 4-page, with highlighting what's the research question, why should we care about this research question, why is it important to society, And how do you intend to answer that research question, providing some literature background? It's enough, okay? And then another question here, do cohorts only start on January or also on the middle of the year? Can I join the middle of the year? I'm sorry, we have only one intake per year, and the courses starts on February, only once a year. So if you are not able to join us in February 27, you can organize yourself to apply for the 28 intake that will start in February 28, okay? What is a good UNPAD exam, grade exam? I already said that we don't disclose this information, but we compare what you have with the other candidates that are applying the same cohort with what our secret cutoff point, but we don't make it clear to anyone. And another question, is it necessary to submit an English proficiency test if I have previously studied in English? Well, let me make it clear. If you took an English course like I did when I was a young student in high school, I went for CCAA, Cultura Inglesa, any English course there, it's not enough. You need to submit your English proficiency exam result. But if you pursued a diploma from official academic institution like a high school or undergrad program that was fully taught in English, yes, we can accept you from presenting your English proficiency result. Okay? But a regular English course is not enough, for sure. Well, don't you have any more questions? So thank you very much for your time, your interest in our program. Daniele, did I forget to say anything? Do you want to help me? Okay, didn't forget anything relevant. Okay, so thank you all. Thank you, Dani and the team from IDE, Bianca, for helping me here today and to offer this. And I do hope to see you all on the selection process. I'm waiting for your applications. Thank you. Have a good day.